Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 2. Yes, we made it through the first one of the 4-Star Podcast. I am one of your three hosts, Jordan DuPont, joined here by my good friends Nick DeCola and Andrew Freeman. Whew. Last week was fun. We're really excited to be back here doing it all over again. This week, going to be a little bit Cubs and Bears heavy as the Blackhawks and Bulls seasons are over and the draft isn't for a little while. But to kick things off, we're going to introduce a new segment that I'm sure will become very popular. It's going to be called SWFU, and it's going to cover all the things that we messed up in the previous week's episode. I'll let you figure out what the acronym stands for on your own, because we are, at least for the time being, trying to keep this a family-friendly show. So
you should have told me that before I went off at the end of the last episode.
Yeah. I'm not going to promise that it's going to be completely clean, but it's going to be a little bit. We're going to keep Nick under control. We're going to try. So, being as though I'm the one that messed up last week, I'll correct myself. So, Liam Hendriks did in fact have cancer. I listed the wrong L cancer. It was not leukemia. It was lymphoma. And at the time of recording, he had not officially become cancer-free. He had finished his treatment. However, he is now cancer-free. So, congrats to Liam Hendriks. My apologies, but congrats. We legitimately, I know we're goofy, but legitimately, that's an awesome accomplishment. Even as a Cubs fan, baseball is better with Liam Hendriks in it, 100%. So, glad to see him healthy.
Well, on a lighter note, I did have one thing that I fucked up for Nick, or shoot.
Family friendly.
Family friendly.
There it is.
I messed up on Nick's behalf. I mentioned to him in his complete 180 that what was it, that the movie he was going off about, ranting about, was a Michael Bay movie?
The Covenant.
Yeah, it's a Guy Ritchie movie, not Michael Bay.
Okay.
So, right. I mean, I don't know how much of a difference that makes to you. But...
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. So... I still hate that movie. I feel like I've watched the whole movie through the trailers. Let's not rehash that. Let's get into it.
Let's get to it.
Let's get into it.
Let's go. So, once again, being that they're in season, we are going to lead off with our beloved Chicago Cubs. So just want to kind of recap the series a little bit versus the Athletics, the A's, and the Dodgers. Cubs looked really, really good against the A's, and then it kind of one really good game, two meh games against the Dodgers. So I'll let you guys fight over who wants to start digging in on that first.
I'll go. I'll get into that. So I think with the Dodger series, it's still early in the season. You don't want to put too much stock into any one, series. I think if you went into the series, if you went into the year and said, hey, the Cubs are going to be 3-4 against the Dodgers over the season, I think we'd take that because we know the Dodgers are a very good baseball team. They're a very good baseball organization. I think if, let's say the Cubs had lost the series in LA and then split the 2 games here, that's still 3-4. It's the same either way. I think we'd be feeling a lot better. I think it's just disappointing coming off the high of winning that series in LA and the high of sweeping the Oakland AAAs.
Okay, that was good. That was good.
Joke is too easy to
make. It writes itself, really. How many
poverty organization? Andrew,
how many fans are they getting in their stadium these days? I thought
4 to 5,000.
Six.
In all honesty, 4 to 5,000 people in all of Oakland Coliseum.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Cubs fans complain about our organization not wanting to spend money, and sometimes rightfully so. But I mean, that's an organization. That's what it looks like, and they're really not spending money.
Yeah, if I can jump in real quick to give some credit to A's fans, the perception has kind of been oh, they don't care about their team. It's no, they really do care about their team. Ownership doesn't care about the team or the fans. Hence, they're doing everything they can to keep people from wanting to go to the stadium so that they can make moving to Vegas look better. So just want to give that disclaimer so that it doesn't sound like we're trashing the A's fans.
No, we're not. No, we're not trashing A's fans. A's fans. It's absolutely horrible what's happening.
No, it's a thing where there's only so much you can take before eventually apathy starts to set in a little bit.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, it is what it is there.
So digging into the series a little bit,
Mhm.
kind of hinted at it a little bit. Just start with a very broad brush here. Do we think the Cubs are good? Like legitimately good?
Andrew, you want to start?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I reiterate this from last week's episode, but they're definitely doing better than my expectations right now. And right now, you look at them in the standings, 12-9, so a solid start, and certainly they're a little bit behind Pittsburgh and Milwaukee right now in the division standings. But again, like it's so early in the season that like I don't want to put too much stock into records at this point. Like, can you tell that they're good just by watching them on a game-to-game basis? And I think that is the case. Like the pitching, for the most part, has been pretty dang solid. Yeah, like really damn good. And we talked about last week how the power element hasn't been as much there, but they're still getting some good contributions up and down the lineup there. And one player that's really stepped up recently has been Cody Bellinger.
Yes.
And we remarked on this last week how like Jordan and I especially, like we were like, I wasn't sure if we understood the signing. To be fair, 1 year, prove a deal. I should rephrase from last week that I think it does make quite a bit of sense to take a 1 year flyer on a guy like Cody Bellinger, especially because, not too long ago, he was one of the better hitters in all of baseball. And over the past week, I talked about last week how he started the season a little bit of a little bit of a cold start. You look at him in the first, 3 series of the season, batting average in the 160s, only a 531 OPS, 5 hits, 1 home run, like not great. Since then, in 58 plate appearances, average, 347 average, over 1 OPS, 4 home runs. And you look at his stats for the season now, looking really solid. 289 average, 1.2 WAR, 914 OPS. And then what I also found interesting looking at the baseball reference page right here, his OPS plus, which kind of adjusts his OPS relative to the rest of the MLB, 148 right now, which is in that really good all-star, caliber of a player right there. So I don't know if it's just a hot streak, right now, and we'll see if he comes back down to earth a little bit as the season goes along. But if this is the type of Cody Bellinger that we're going to see all year long, I mean, that's, again, like I said before, that's borderline all-star level, batting right there, if not all-star level. And that would be really good to see.
I do want to piggyback 2 points that kind of popped into my head. First of all, I don't want Cubs fans to worry. The Pirates are having a pretty decent record right now. Look at who they've played. They've played the Rockies. I think they've played the Reds twice now, if I remember correctly. Those are not teams that are going to, if you're getting that stuff out of the way early, those are teams you beat up on, So I think over the course of the season, we're not really going to have to worry about the Pirates as much. Of course, somebody's going to find this 6 months from now and clip it and make me look dumb. But, for now, that's what I'm seeing.
We're going to get the Cold Takes Exposed Twitter ready for that.
Oh, yeah. Cold Take. I'm going to be all over Cold Takes.
One note on Cody Bellinger that I want to bring up is that, like, even if he cools off and isn't getting the batted ball luck that he is right now, a couple things that I've noticed in just his approach. His strikeout percentage is down to 14.8%. Last year it was 27%, and it was the same the year after. So his strikeout rate is way down. His walk rate is at about 10%, up from 7%. So I think even if he cools off at the bat a little bit, I think as long as he can keep that approach up, not strike out too much, get on base, I think we're gonna be really happy with what we see out of Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, I mean that bodes well, right? Because you want to, at the end of the day, you just want to get the ball in play and force the defense to have to make a play. And eventually, if you're hitting the ball like that, eventually you're going to find the open spots in the defense and, get on base and whatnot. So, yeah, like you said, like avoiding the strikeouts is the big thing. I mean, that's one of the things that you want to avoid, where you're not getting a situation where you're just doing home runs, walks, and strikeouts every single at bat. You want to bring down those negatives a little bit. And I mean, yeah, even if, like you said, like the luck starts to go against him a little bit, if you're getting the ball in play consistently, I think that honestly that would help add some resiliency to his hitting over the course of the season, I would think.
Well, and I want to look at the rest of the team too. I mean, again, this is off the top of my head. I'm not looking at Baseball Reference right now. I probably should be, but we have what, 4 or 5 guys that are currently hitting 300 or better. I mean, it seems like the whole top half of the lineup is just going bananas right now, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
So as of this morning, the Cubs are second in the majors in batting average, third in slugging, second in weighted runs created plus, second in stolen bases. And in a lot of those categories, the only team that's ahead of them is the Rays. So that's the best in the National League. It's really looking like they have the power and the speed to be the best in the National League.
I'm going to cut you off real quick because you said the best in the National League. Oh, never mind. Okay, never mind.
Sure.
I get what you're saying.
My God.
I thought you were trying to say that the A's were the NL, and I'm like, let's save this for now instead of having to do I get what you mean now.
The one thing I will say is that, like, whether they're good or not, they're fun. They're fun to watch. There's a lot going right with this team, and we'll talk about some of the things that aren't going right, but they're showing some of the qualities of a good team. You play competitive against the good teams and you beat the crap out of the bad teams. They swept Oakland. None of those games were particularly close. And you come back home, you play LA, you lose a heartbreaker, and then you have to come back the next day. You're facing their ace. Like, a lot of lesser teams would go in. It's like, okay, we're dropped the first 2 of the series, and now we have to win the last 2 just to, like, hope for a split. Like, you're just hoping for a split at that point. What do the Cubs do? They go out, they chase Julio Urias in the third or fourth inning, and they put up 13 runs, and Smiley almost throws a perfect game. Like, that team rebounded, and the good teams find ways to win, and they find ways to rebound from tough losses. So I think,
and I want to point out too,
I think that's encouraging.
I want to point out too, obviously, I don't think Yan Gomes running over Drew Smiley is what broke up that perfect game. They were not making that play. With that being said, the way the team responded after losing that, with Yan Gomes wearing a football helmet,
that was hilarious.
I honestly so well for those guys. Just the fact that they can be loose, laugh it off, have a good time. I think that bodes well for the rest.
I feel for it. I honestly think that if there wasn't the perfect game going on, I think Smiley just makes the play. I don't think he's rushing to try to make that play. Right. He's just trying to make that play for his pitcher. He knows what's going on. He wants to, try to preserve this perfect game. It's such I keep watching that hit over and over again. It's just like, that's what you lose the perfect game on. It's just like it had an exit velocity. If the exit velocity
32.7, if I remember right,
if I can throw faster than the exit velocity, like, I think you should just be called out immediately.
It's one of the most baseball-y types of ways to do a perfect game, though. You have to admit, that's just one of the things. Like, well, of course, it happens on a play like that where a perfect game loses like that.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing just on a broader note for the Cubs season. We're going to get to the negatives here, but I think props have to go to Jed Hoyer for the approach, because he's got. I mean, the Cubs front office and ownership has got a lot of criticism in recent years, is because the way the direction the team was going wasn't great. It seemed like they were making a lot of the wrong moves that they were kind of forcing to go down a downward spiral a little bit. And of course, like, getting rid of some of the staples of the World Series here certainly hurts in the moment there. But so far, it's looked like a lot of the moves that he made and Cubs front office made this past offseason really have started to pay off a little bit. And I think it's been reflected in their start this year. So again, it's early in the year. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, because baseball, it's a long, long season, and we're not even like close to getting into the meat of things yet. But if there's any indications here, we talk about the bats have been very good at the top of the lineup. The pitching's been excellent for the most part. If Bellinger can continue to, stack series together and really, be consistent hitting force for them. Props to Hoyer for, taking over for Epstein and doing a pretty good job with it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a lot in the media about, I think even it made it to The Athletic, if I remember correctly. But just team building around chemistry, not just overall skill. Obviously they're not going to go find some guy that's in AA and promote him to the majors just because he's a great clubhouse guy. But we talked about it last week. Dansby Swanson's leadership abilities and capabilities, Ian Happ, building a team with guys like that are going to have fun playing a game, realize that it's a game, have fun with it, be loose, be there for each other. And I think I also read that the Cubs have had more team dinners already so far this year than they did all of last season. Mm-hmm. It's just stuff like that where you get guys that want to actually go play for each other that can maybe overcome some skill shortfalls in some instances. So I'm 100% with you. I think Jed's been doing a great job.
I don't know if you guys were watching the game yesterday or were able to pick up on this. I was at the game yesterday. In the first inning, we might be able to pivot to some of the negatives. But the first inning, Hayden Wesneski started. He struggled. The first 3 runners reached base, so he had the bases loaded, no outs. And the catcher, I think it was Barnhart, was catching yesterday, came up, did a mountain visit. One position player came up and went up and talked to Wesneski. Anyone want to guess who it was?
Dansby.
Hit me.
It was Dansby.
Yeah.
It was Dansby. And that stuck out to me because people have been talking about his leadership. That's what you pay for. That's he's a true leader on the field, I'm sure off the field. And that just really stuck out to me.
Well, I think that's a good opportunity to pivot to our next point about Hayden Wesneski. Should we be worried? I'm just gonna preface it by saying my vote is no, but I'll let you guys dig into it first.
I'm not overly worried. I do see some changes from last year because last year he came up and he was phenomenal. He was pitching really well. Hang on, let me pull up his. Should have his stat page up. What's his ERA this year? I know it's not
6.23.
6.23. Yep, yeah. There it is. So he had a 2.18 ERA, 2.18 ERA last year. It's ballooned, and something that I've noticed in just his pitch usage, he's throwing his. So last year he really leaned on his slider. Baseball savant calls it a sweeper, but it's a slider. I don't know what he calls it. Doesn't matter. Point is that pitch is his best pitch. He gets a lot of swings and misses on that pitch. And last year he threw that 31% of the time. So, he really leaned on that pitch. He threw that more than any other pitch. This year he's throwing that sweeper 33% of the time, but he's throwing his 4-seam fastball 35% of the time. So he's really leaning hard on that fastball. And I don't know if that's a coaching thing. I don't know if that's a matchup thing. I don't know if it's a development thing where they want to get him comfortable throwing that fastball. But the problem is that fastball is getting rocked. He's allowing a 481 batting average on that fastball. Last year he was getting 24% swings and misses with that fastball. This year it's down to 15. The one start this year where he actually looked really good was against Oakland, and guess which pitch he threw the most? He threw his slider. So I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I think because we've seen with these young pitching prospects coming up, some of these guys are momentum guys. They have to sit a couple of guys down, but if they just can't get settled, then it's not going to go well. I think that's what it is for Wesneski. And I don't know. I think I'd like to see them change his approach a little bit, maybe lean a little bit more on that slider that he's more comfortable with, and then start peppering in those fastballs.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's an experimentation thing where they're trying to try some things out early in the year and see what works and what doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, at some point he's going to have to hone in on the pitches that do work for him and go for there. Because you look at where he's at right now, through 17 innings pitched. So again, it's a small sample size, but 1.6 whip to start the year. So, and that walks, hits per innings pitch, that's not very good. 11 hits per 9 innings. So, and you look at his ERA adjusted to the rest of the league, that's a 70 right now. That's 30 points below average. So it's been a rough start for him. I don't know if it's time to panic yet necessarily. It's only through 4 starts so far, but at some point, I think if this is just an experimentation phase, I think they're going to have to make some adjustments here, and he's going to have to go to what's been working for him in the past.
Well, it's going to be interesting what happens when Kyle Hendricks comes back, because he threw an extended spring training game, I think, yesterday. So he should be making rehab starts pretty soon. Right now, Wisniewski is the 5th starter, and Tyone is injured. He's on the 15-day IL. I don't remember with what, but assuming Tyone comes back, Hendricks comes back, what do they do if Wisniewski is still struggling? I don't know if you send him back down to Iowa. I think that might be a little drastic considering how well he pitched last year. But maybe if there's just no room in the rotation and they just want to get him right, maybe you move him to the pen a little bit. I know they used him in relief last year when he came up. So I don't know. Something about the approach and his usage, I think, just has to change.
Yeah, I would think maybe using him to the. I'm sorry, I'll get back to you, Jordan. But
no, you're good.
Just quick point. I think moving him to the pen might be what's best for him. Just get him in short stints, and put him in more advanced situations where maybe you get him against the bottom of the order, for instance, and see if that's something where he can come in and give you a good inning or two, just to find a rhythm until maybe. It's time to get him back in there as that 5th starter later in the year. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where we'll see what happens with things and how he changes throughout the season.
So did double check. Tyone's injury is a strained left groin, so he's on the 15-day DL. My take on the whole Hayden Wisniewski situation, the only game that I have unfortunately had time to watch was his game against the A's. And he was lights out in that game. The potential is certainly there. I mean, that he had the slider working, but even in that game,
right,
he talked about in an interview, he's like, it takes me a little while to get comfortable, takes me an inning or two, and then once I'm comfortable, he's on. I mean, it's lights out. So I do think, once Hendricks comes back, once Tyone comes back, I don't think sending him to AAA is going to be any help because clearly he has the stuff when he's on to just shut down major league hitters, even if they are the AAAs. So I think moving him to the pen would be a smarter decision, but I certainly am not ready to hit the panic button yet. If the stuff is there like it was for the A's and that capability is underneath, there's no reason to worry. It's just a matter of tuning the mechanics, getting the pitch usage where it needs to be, and optimizing it to where he's getting guys to swing and miss like we know he can. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. It might not even be moving him to the pen. They could do something with like a 6-man rotation to try to do something to keep him in, get him to start. Because like that's doable. They can do that for some stretches.
Which over 160 game season, like honestly, I think that would be a good approach just to keep the arms fresh. So I mean,
especially like the young arms, like Steele, especially too,
or the older arms like Hendricks.
Yeah, true.
So
yeah.
All right, I think we got one more thing that we can cover with the Cubs. The not so fun part of the batting order. I will be the first to get on the mountaintop of please, for the love of God, stop using Eric Hosmer and Trey Mancini and call up Matt Mervis. We are at a point in the season where, again, I know I just said that the Pirates probably aren't going to be a threat in the long run, but they are beating us. Every game's going to count in the division. I think we're projected with a 33% chance of making the postseason this year. Every game's going to count. We need a bat that can actually hit the ball, get on base, and not be a detriment. But
yeah, I agree. I agree. I think as great as things have been, I do have some questions about, the way the roster is constructed currently in certain roster spots. I don't think are being used optimally. Like, what is Torrens doing? What is Rios is on the bench. He's like, I know he's a platoon guy. I know they're trying to only use him against right-handed pitching, but like, he's barely out there. He's, and I get that part of it is they don't want to rush these guys up from AAA, like Mervis. They don't want to rush his development, which I can understand that to a degree. But like, he's hitting really well. He's only striking. He's not like he's striking out a ton. He's only got a 20.5% strike rate. He's got a great OPS. Christopher Morel's another guy who I think could be called up very soon. Like it is frustrating to just watch. Actually, no, Madrigal has actually been okay, but I still, I still think like Torrance, his roster spot could go to Christopher Morel. Now, I know he went down to AAA to work on his strikeout rate. He's still striking out 28% of the time, which that's got to come down.
Right.
But, I mean, when you're hitting the ball as well as he is, he's got a 1277 OPS. So,
oh my, that's astronomical.
Morel's destroying the ball. Everything, all he does is hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that and the bullpen issues. I don't understand why Michael Fulmer keeps getting these high leverage spots. There've been 3 games in this past week where Michael Fulmer has been in a high leverage spot, and he's either cost the Cubs the game or he's cost the Cubs like dearly in their chance to come back from that game. He blew the save in LA. The first game of the series, he gave up that grand slam in the 9th. And yesterday he came in top of the 9th. Cubs are down 2. And then he gave up another 2 runs. Now the Cubs have to try to come down 4. And to the Cubs' credit, they did bring the tying run to the plate. But I really think it's time for him to. We need a new closer.
Fire him into the sun.
Fire him into the sun is what I.
And this is where I wonder, like, whether the trade market comes into play, you know, with some of these moves that kind of fill these holes. But also, like, honestly, like this team right now, they're kind of in a transition phase. At the moment, like I honestly think, like you kind of mentioned it, like you don't want to rush these guys' development. I almost think that, like, you know, this is kind of the time, especially with some of the holes like near the bottom of the order, that you want to have, you know, bring these guys up and see what they can do, almost just to give them that experience. So I wonder if that would be, I don't know. I kind of think that would, honestly, in a year like this, that might be a better approach, just to kind of see what they have for you and, you know, get the ball rolling on actually them being contributors moving forward here, because they're still trying to find other core guys around, you know, Ian Happ and Horner and all those other guys. And, you know, why not try to see what you have in some of your prospects and get them up to the big leagues for a little bit?
Yeah, I think at this point, bringing them up is not going to hurt their development. The only, like, we're at the floor with those roster spots that Morel and Mervis would be taking up. We're not going to get worse than Hosmer. We're not going to get worse than Mancini. And we don't have a DH. You're basically sending somebody up to the plate to just fill a roster spot.
The amount of times that our DH has been in the 9-hole this year is they've been in like the bottom 3 of the order. Like the DH,
which is unacceptable.
That's
really.
That's your free spot. That's your free hitter. They don't have to be good at anything else. Just get someone up there to hit the ball.
That's Jason Giambi. I know that's a huge throwback, but that's a guy that literally cannot play the field at all. He has one job, and it is to mash baseballs. We're using our spot for nothing.
Andrew, you mentioned the trade market. I think I don't think we need the trade market. Even the closer, even for the closer spot, everyone else in the bullpen is doing great. It's just Michael Fulmer does not have it. I honestly think Adbert Alzolay should get a look at closer. He's got great stuff. He's striking guys out. He's pitching really well this year. They've got a lot of young guys that are pitching really. I don't know if Alzolay qualifies as a young guy anymore, because it feels like he's been a prospect for forever. But no, they've got Brandon Hughes just came back. They called up Estrada a couple days ago. He's got some good stuff. So maybe Estrada's not closer material, but you know, you can at least start to see what they have.
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, again, it's early in the year, so maybe it's one of those things where you just try things out and see what happens. I think, honestly, because they're in a good spot right now. You know, they're playing well for the most part. They've come off a pretty good week here. I think it's one of those things where, you know, similar to some of the others we've said, you know, get these young guys more of a shot and try some different things out, because when we get to like June, July, August, mid-season here, you want to know what what the strengths of this team are, what the weaknesses are, and that way you can make adjustments off of it. And I think this is the time where you have to try to start to figure out what those strengths and weaknesses are, and just go from there.
I tend to agree with you on that. Well, I think we have spent a good amount of time on our Cubbies here. So just to kind of wrap it up, another thing we're adding this week that we meant to do last week, but you know, we got too excited and forgot about it. We're going to give you the week ahead. So the Cubs are off tomorrow, and then they have a 3-game series at home against the Padres, and then a 3-game series in Miami. So I would feel pretty confident and hope that they can at least split both of those. But that being said, time to move on to more draft news. We're going to dig in a little bit more on that. It's coming up, I believe, Thursday is round 1 and Friday is round 2.
Yep. And then the rest
Day
of the
3
rounds.
on Saturday. Yep.
So to start with, looks like our off-season workouts started on the 17th, so we're about a week into those. Do you guys have anything noteworthy from workouts? All right, just
Justin Fields looks really cool in every single photo that he's in. That's all I can say about
that goes without saying.
It goes without saying.
Kevin Warren's first week on the job.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. I'm really curious to see what he does with the stadium. I mean, that's like way down the road there, but he's a stadium guy. So, I mean, I'm really, really excited to see what he has in store for there. And also, Ted Phillips no longer here. So, hallelujah, let's go.
Are you more excited about Ted Phillips not being there, or
I think that's
the
case. Yes. I think that's the case. Yeah.
Oh,
it's an absolute win.
And I get it. Like it's kind of like a meme at this point that Ted Phillips is like the boogeyman around Hallis Hall that's kind of secretly ruining everything for everything. And gosh, the stadium, the renovation at Soldier Field, where it looks like an alien spaceship took a dump near the lakefront. Like, oh my gosh. Oh man, I cannot believe how. I don't want to go on a tangent there, but I mean, seems like a nice guy. I get why the McCaskies liked him and whatnot, and he's basically been a part of the McCaskey family for I don't know, the last 3 decades or so. But it was time to make a drastic change there, because the definition of his tenure, and again, he's a business guy. He's on the business front mostly, money guy mostly, but he still is in charge. He still was in charge of a lot of the football decision making, especially hiring and firing, the guys at the top, and making some of those big organization defining decisions. And all you can say is during his tenure that the Bears were the definition of mediocrity. So I think that's your legacy, Ted. Mediocrity and a really stupid looking stadium on the lakefront.
Mediocrity rules. I do have one very, very quick, funny Ted Phillips story that you guys will get a kick out of.
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh, here we go.
So I used to work at a small independent shop in mine and Nick's hometown, and my boss was a giant Bears fan. He got so frustrated with the Bears at one point, he sent an email, a very long email, directly to Ted Phillips.
Oh my God.
I will never forget that. It was freaking hilarious. I'm never going to forget that. But anyway, on a more serious business, do want to make a quick note. We do have another wide receiver returning. Dante Pettis is back on a 1-year deal. Not the biggest news in the world, but
Bears winning the Super Bowl. On the back of Dante Pettis.
That's the difference maker right there. All right, so digging in a little deeper here, going to turn things over to Nick and Andrew, who have a lot more time to cover the draft than I do. So I'll let you guys start talking about your mid to late round picks and take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, you want me to start? You go ahead.
You start. You just want to alternate each? Yeah, let's just alternate.
Yeah, let's just do it. I mean, first of all, we talked about the first round quite a bit last week, but as we know that there isn't just one round in the NFL draft. There's 7 rounds, and day 2 and day 3 are in many ways just as important in filling out the roster as day 1 is. So, the Bears, you look at where they're at right now, they have 2 second-round picks. They have a bunch of picks on day 3 of this draft, and I'm sure that they're going to try to trade down and get even more picks. So it should be really important to get affiliated and know who these guys are, because I'm sure that they're going to be bringing in a lot of talent over next weekend, which oh my gosh, like the draft is this weekend. I can't believe that it's coming up. It felt like it's been forever.
I'm so ready for the discourse to be done. Like it interests me so much, but I'm just so ready for it to be done. Let's just find out what our team looks like.
I'm with you right there. Yeah. Like it's been a really, really, really long off season. I'm just ready for the draft to get here, because it's one of the best weekends of the year from a sports from a sports standpoint, just because of all the drama, and the NFL does a really good job of making it like a very engaging event. But let's get to the prospects here, because there are a lot of interesting players, I think, on day 2 and day 3 of the draft. I'll start with the guy that I'm interested on in day 2, and he's a local kid that I think a lot of Bears fans should already be pretty knowledgeable of, and that's Adetomiwa Adebaware of Northwestern product. So local kid here. Well, I wouldn't say local kid, but developed here in the area at Northwestern. And you look at the Bears, like they need to add some talent to the defensive line. Adebaware is one of those guys who just a very interesting guy, because he's kind of that tweener between being like a defensive end, defensive tackle. And the selling point for him is that he had like an ungodly like workout at the scouting combine. He's like 6'2", 280 pounds, around like a 4.40 or something ridiculous, like 40-inch roll. Yeah, I see your face right there, Jordan. Like, yeah, this
is a
guy,
big boy running very, very fast.
Yeah, he is a freak athlete, right? So I'm just really curious to see what teams see him as at the NFL, because he played a lot of defensive end at Northwestern, but I honestly think he's better as an interior guy. We know Eberflus, coming from that, that he has that 4-3 Tampa 2 background, where that 3 technique is a very pivotal part of that scheme. Adebaware is kind of like, I wonder if he'd be like the perfect fit as a developmental option for that type of fit, where he's just a freak athlete who can get after the passer and just create havoc in the middle. He's a guy that I'm really intrigued by. I'm honestly not even sure if he makes it to day 2, though. It sounds like he's getting a lot of first round hype. I hope he does make the day 2, though, because I really do like him at the next level, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know what the chances of him dropping to the Bears are. It seems like the buzz on him is going to be like early round 2. I don't think he might not even make it. I can tell you one person who's really hoping the Bears don't pick him is Jeff Joniak, because Adetomiwa Adebaware is a hell of a name.
It's an amazing name.
Yeah. A D-line prospect, going off of Andrew, a D-line prospect that interests me is Yaya Diaby. He's an edge rusher out of Louisville. He's projected to go right now around the 4th round, so like middle rounds. Last year he had 9 sacks in 13 games. He was 3rd team all ACC. 263. He runs a 4.5 140. He's a very physical run defender. He's strong. He's got long arms, big hands. He's really athletic. We know Ryan Poles loves his athletes. He's got versatility around the defensive line. At Louisville, they moved him around, and he is explosive. He attacks the quarterback. It's just pure explosiveness. He's not as refined as a pass rusher. Doesn't have the tricks and tools and all that, but he's got great potential. He's got that athletic base. Like, look at Dominique Robinson last year. He took him in the 5th round, and he didn't produce a whole lot, but that might just be more of a product of the rest of the terrible defensive line.
It's one of those things where I don't want to put too much on the rookie there, but he did have the one game against the Niners that was pretty nice.
But I bring him up because Dominique Robinson was this athletic freak that the Bears got in the 5th round. So I think Yaya Diaby also pretty similar in that vein. So I think look for the Bears to maybe pick him.
Yeah, Diaby is one of my guys on day 3 of this draft. Like, I see him as like a 4th round guy. If he were to sneak into round 3, though, I wouldn't say that surprised me. Either way, I feel like defensive line in general is going to be like a big emphasis in this draft, because it is an incredibly talented group this year. I look at guys like on day 2, like Derek Hall of Auburn's a guy I really like as like an option for the Bears. Isaiah Foskey, I know a lot of Chicago fans are going to know Isaiah Foskey because he went to Notre Dame, and I'm not going to get into Notre Dame because I cannot stand Notre Dame. But anyway, Foskey is a solid prospect as a defensive end there. I think it's Isaiah McGuire out of Missouri. I always get his name mixed up for some reason. Yeah, Isaiah McGuire of Missouri. He's a guy who's not getting a lot of buzz right now, but I honestly think he's a very underrated player. I'm just naming off names right now, but there's just a lot of guys to like from a defensive line standpoint. So that suffice to say, like, if the Bears are going to address that, like, this is kind of the year, I think, to really add some talent there. But the offensive line is also going to be a position that needs to get beefed up as well. And I expect them to do that early on, but you never know. Like Ryan Poles, Jordan mentioned this last week, but Ryan Poles kind of seems like the type of guy who's going to go best player available. I guess no matter what, even to a fault sometimes. And it's possible that in round one, an offensive tackle may not be, or even an interior guy may not be the best available player. So I look at guys like on day 2 and day 3, like Blake Freeland out of BYU is a guy that is really interesting to me. Just a hyper athletic dude who, he's going to be older. He went to BYU, so those prospects coming out are always going to be older because they go on mission trips, during their college years. Like no joke, like that's what they do. Like they always take a year off for mission trips and whatnot. But just really talented player. And one center that I'm going to point out here, Ricky Stromberg. I think Stromberg out of Arkansas. He's getting a lot of day 3 hype right now. He was a guy who was considered like a day 2 guy if he went out in last year's draft, but he stayed another year. Really good fit for what they want to do on offense. So those are kind of like 2 trench guys I'm looking for in day 2 and day 3 that I think would be very good fits for what they want to do.
Yeah. One of the centers in the mid to late rounds that jumped out to me is Luke Whippler out of Ohio State. And no, he doesn't have that much experience with Justin Fields. He enrolled in 2020, only played 3 games. So I'm not just taking the Ohio State guy because he played with Justin Fields. Like it's not that. He's very athletic. He tested really well in the combine. We know Poles loves his athletes, especially on the offensive line. And reading the scouting report on him, it seems like he is very smart. He has a really high football IQ. He's great at communicating. This is from Dane Brugler's The Beast, which you can get on The Athletic. He is coachable, a high intangible player with the mental capacity for the NFL, also adds plenty of dry humor. Now, I don't know if the dry humor is a strength or not. Dane put it.
I consider it a strength.
I think it's a strength. I would think it's a strength.
As a dry humor advocate myself, I think that is a huge strength.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to bat for Luke Whippler from that.
Definitely.
aspect.
Yeah. Dane projects him to be a backup with potential to be something more at the NFL level, and I think for this year that would be good. It sounds like Ryan Poles is running with Cody Whitehair as center for this year. Obviously, that's not the long-term option. We can say how we feel about that at another time, but I think having having this young athletic prospect who's really smart and coachable, sitting a year rotating in and out, I think that would be good for what the Bears want to do.
Yeah, and to go on that, I think his pass pro is pretty technically sound as well. So he's not a guy who I think is like a project or anything like that. Does need to get stronger, though. I think that's probably the thing that is going to be the determining factor for him is can he, get some sand in the pants, so to speak, and, get to that point where he can take on some powerful guys to the next level. But I'll add one more name here or a couple more names here because, that's just the guy I am. Running back, I think, is also going to be a position that they try to emphasize here as well. And I know running back, it's like I'm like the top proponent, and Nick can like fight me all he wants on this, but I'm like the big guy, or I don't care who, but running back is just like not an important position in my mind from like a value standpoint. But
I agree.
On day 3 of the draft, like that's the gold mine for finding guys that can just come in and contribute for you and find a role. And this is like a really damn good running back class. Like there's going to be guys available in the 6th and 7th round that in a lot of years probably would have been 3rd or 4th round guys. So, I mean, day 3 is going to be, I think, you're going to see a lot of gems in this class go late in the draft. And 2 guys that I really like for the Bears specifically, Roshan Johnson, I think, out of Texas, back up to Bijan Robinson at Texas. And he's not as good as Bijan, but it's honestly, he's not too far off from Bijan. I think he's like, I think one of the leaders in college football in broken tackles this year from a per attempt basis. Just really tough to bring down, contributor in all 3 phases. And for my money, he's the best pass blocking running back in this draft class, which I know it's not the most exciting thing, but these NFL coaches really, really love running backs that can pass block, and he can do that really, really damn well. And then one other guy, Israel Abanikanda from Pittsburgh. He's like one of the most explosive backs in this draft class. I think at like 6, about 5'11", 217 pounds. This guy ran like a 4.3 40. 40-inch vertical. So he is fast. He is explosive. He's like that perfect fit for you. Give him a lane to go through. He makes that one cut and he's gone. So that's another guy that I really like here. I know Nick's got a Illinois running back that he wants to talk about though. So I'm going to give him the floor for this one.
Yes. So I do also have another running back prospect in day 3 that if you listen to my me pounding the table for Devin Witherspoon last week, it should be no surprise to you who I'm going with. I'm going with Chase Brown out of Illinois, the best school in the nation.
No bias.
No bias at all.
Whatsoever.
No bias at all. This is a pure unbiased party. He is a second-team All-American last year. He was second-team All-Big Ten last year. He really should have been first-team All-Big Ten, but, you know, who's counting?
Again, no bias.
No bias.
No bias whatsoever.
No bias at all. He was a workhorse running back at Illinois. He led the team in rushing in 2 straight seasons. Last year, he was 4th in the FBS in rushing yards in rushing yards last season. He had more yards than Bijan Robinson, you know, the guy who would easily go in the top 3 if the league cared about running backs at all. Like, so he had more yards than that guy. I think he's a great fit in his own scheme. He's somebody that can come in and contribute right away. He's got good vision. And like I said last week, I watched a lot of Illinois football last year. I watched a lot of Big Ten West football. Nothing gets me going like college football games that end 14-10. Like, that, I love it.
You're a sicko, man. That's all I can say.
I am a sicko. I truly am a sicko. I will say Chase Brown is really underrated as a pass catcher. He was really good in Illinois' offense. You know, he can catch the ball. He's a great route runner. And he tested really well at the combine. He ran a 4.43 with a 40-inch vertical. What more do you want? Draft Chase Brown.
All right. Well, that was a great dig in there to some potential future picks for the Bears here. Do you want to transition into we're going to have a little bit of fun here. Not that we, you know, don't normally have fun, but a little extra fun.
I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll see.
So we're going to call this segment Draft Over Unders. So the first over under, Bears currently have the number 9 overall pick. Nick, are you taking the over or the, well, I guess, you know, are they staying there or are they trading back? I guess that's really what
you got to phrase it like an over under, Jordan.
Okay. Is it over or under 9.5?
I think it all really depends on if one of their quote unquote blue players is there. If Ryan Poles sees a player there that he thinks is worth taking at 9, I don't think he's trading out of it. I think like if Jalen Carter's there, he's not trading out of it. I think if maybe a couple other guys, not naming names, but maybe a Devin Witherspoon is there, he's not going to trade out of it. I'm going to take the under on that. I think he stands pat at 9.
And real quick, Devin Witherspoon, if you're listening, please friend Nick on Facebook.
Please
would make his life. Clearly, he's talked about you the last 2 weeks. Andrew, over under 9.5.
Well, first of all, Nick, way to make a declarative statement right away instead of this tactic of you kind of went a little rode the fence a little bit for either way, kind of hedging your bets a little bit. I'm gonna go over. I think that. I think Ryan Poles is motivated to move down in this year's draft. I think he wants to get more picks. And honestly, I at this point, from what we've all been hearing, I don't think Jalen Carter makes it to them at 9. And I think he's the only player that Ryan Poles will consider staying at 9-4. So I'm going to go over for this one.
I'm going to be way less analytical than both of you and just kind of blurt it out. It's going to be over. I see no viable scenario with how Ryan Poles has acted throughout this offseason to where they stay at number 9. They've already come out and said that they're planning on trading. Well, I shouldn't say planning, but they've explored trading back. I think that makes the most sense. So personally, I'm going over. Which kind of piggybacks into our next question. Number of picks the Bears make in the draft. Over under 10.5. They currently have 10. Nick.
I'm going to go over. I think he's going to trade back in the late rounds, probably.
Yeah, this is an easy one. Over. Like, if we saw anything from the way that Ryan Poles handled last year's draft, This guy loves to get picks. He loves to trade down. And honestly, I'm all for that. Like, that's the way to go. Like, get as many darts at the dartboard as possible and, try to get as many players in the building as possible because, dang it, they need as many players as they can get, and they need to fill a lot of holes. So, I'm all for it. Like, I think they're going to trade down early. I think they're going to trade down often. And it wouldn't surprise me if they get up to like 15, 16 picks in this draft. It's very possible.
I love the reference to Chicago politics there. That was good. It was good. I'm going to keep it real simple because you guys pretty much covered it. It's going to be over. He's going to trade back at some point. That's going to give us more picks. It's going to be over. The last over-under we have, and this is my personal favorite. I know who wrote this in our little outline here. Number of noise complaints Andrew will receive from his apartment complex if the Bears take Witherspoon at number 9. Set at 1.5. Nick, over under.
I'm going to go under. I don't think I'll be that bad.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
I left myself room for 1 where I said it. You're going to get 1.
For those who don't know, Nick and I are planning on watching the draft together at my apartment. So that we'll preface with that. I'm going over here. I know you, Nick, and I know you're totally unbiased love for Illinois players. I'm totally unbiased. But I cannot see a scenario where Nick does not go ballistic in my apartment, probably intentionally to
Andrew, the real answer to this question is how much alcohol are you providing at the draft time? That's going to tell you the answer.
All right,
I'm keeping this kid friendly here, Nick. Determined for now.
So I'm going to take a different approach here because personally, and I think Andrew, you can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm putting words in your mouth at this point. I think you're going to be pretty upset if the Bears take Devin Witherspoon at number 9. I feel like so I'm taking a different approach here.
That's also true.
Are we locking that bet in?
I'm going to preface this a little bit. I think if the Bears take Devin Witherspoon at number 9, if any of you know the meme from The Office where Michael does the no, God, please no, why, God, no. That's going to be Andrew if the Bears take Devin Witherspoon at number 9. So I'm hitting the over.
And again, nothing against Devin Witherspoon as a player. He would be a great Bear purely because of the not the positioning, just the aftermath of my cousin over here and all the chaos that will ensue. That's purely, totally non-football reasons. Totally non-football.
Love it. All right, so like we had mentioned, round 1 of the NFL draft, Thursday. I believe it's rounds 2 and 3, Friday. Rest of it, 7 rounds, right? 7?
Yep. So rounds 4
through 7.
4 through
7 are going to be on Saturday. So make sure you guys are tuning into that. I am sure we will definitely have plenty to cover next Sunday after the draft.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm nervous.
It's
somebody's going to get upset.
It's going to be a fun podcast.
It's definitely going to be fun.
It's probably going to be me that gets upset, if we're being honest.
So moving on now, these next 2 segments we're going to start with the Bulls here. Probably going to be pretty quick. Just again, season's over. But we do have the NBA draft lottery to figure out who is picking when, coming up on May 16th. So with that being said, if one of you guys wants to go over our odds and speculate on where we're going to be picking, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so the Bulls have they won a coin flip tiebreaker with, I believe, the Thunder. So they have an 8.5% chance of finishing getting a top 4 pick, and they have a 1.8% chance at the top spot. And basically, they need to get that, or they don't have a draft pick this year.
Yep, I mean that's
it.
Yep, that's it.
All right, and moving on. No, I'm just kidding.
I certainly hope we get a Derrick Rose situation where the NBA just rigs it for Chicago to get Victor Wembanyama, but I don't think that's going to happen this year, guys. So I'm going to be the pessimist here and say that's probably not going to happen.
I think we need to be.
At this point, I don't even think that's pessimistic. I think that's just realistic.
It's realistic, yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, there's a hefty load of negativity that comes with it.
Yeah.
But
I think the Bulls need to be like a little bit more. They have a little bit more going for them before the league decides they want to rig it for us.
That's true.
So,
that's true, but you never know. It's the NBA does some weird rigging, guys.
I'm way more confident in the NHL rigging the lottery so that the Hawks get Bedard rather than Adam Silver rigging it so that we get Wembanyama.
That's true. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I honestly though, at this point, the Bulls kind of deserve to not get their picks, so I'm not even mad about it. So
you're a little mad about it.
Are we bringing back the Reinsdorf hate from last week? Come on, I thought
we're not gonna rehash that. But
the Bulls reminding our listeners that just a Reinsdorf hate segment. Like, I don't know what you thought this was.
It's the offseason. We're going to be spending the entire offseason just completely destroying Reinsdorf. That's just the way this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving along, it looks like Derek Jones Jr. is expected to pick up his player option for 2023. Andrew, I'll let you dig in on that a little bit and the impact there.
Yeah, I mean, solid. I mean, it's definitely not something to oppose here. Like Derek Jones, he's a solid role player. He's one of those versatile guys who I love it when they play small ball 5 with him because he, just has that bounce. He's one of the best dunkers in the game, first of all. So he brings that excitement factor. But yeah, I love it when they go small because he just gives you a lot of that, flexibility. Does it really move the needle? No. But I'm going to look at the contract here because that's also going to be a turning factor for the Bulls this upcoming year because, they are going to be – if they're going to be able to keep their team together, they might have to go to a luxury tax. God forbid Reinsdorf ever goes into a luxury tax.
And he's back.
Anyway, but yeah, it's looking at about $3 million for his player option. So not bad whatsoever. So I'm perfectly fine with it. Good role player. There's no complaints there for me.
All right, last topic to cover here on the Bulls. Per Joe Cowley from the Sun-Times, Bulls are going to be expected to match any offer for restricted free agent Kobe White. So looks like he'll likely come back. Again, I am a very casual Bulls fan, but personally, I do like watching Kobe White play ball. I think he's a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially late in the year, he came on and he played
big time.
He played really well down the stretch. I'd really like to see him next year. If we made it clear last year what we want for the Bulls. We want them to tear it down and rebuild. But I think he could be a really key part of that rebuild. Just give him a full season, starter minutes, have him play, and go from there. Though, I mean, I feel like having it get reported that it's they'll match any offer. It's all right. Give them $50 million a year for 2 years, some team, and the Bulls are oh God, we got to match it.
That's the thing though. I wonder with the way NBA contracts work. I mean, these guys will, when they get to free agency, teams are going to pay these guys, and even your below average role players get a ton of money. So I do wonder how committed they are to, re-signing him at all costs, basically. So
what do you think a team would offer him?
It's so tough to tell because the salary cap is rising at a very exponential rate. I don't want to get into all that right now, but I could see out to 16, 18 million.
Too much for Reinsdorf.
I mean, not surprising if it was.
$3 is too much for
if we were up to Reinsdorf, every single player in the roster would be making the absolute minimum.
I was going to tell you it was too much no matter what you said.
All right, so that will cover our Bulls for this week. Moving on to their roommates at the United Center, which is the background, if you couldn't tell, for my screen this week.
By the way, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, we record video on YouTube and put it up on YouTube. So if you're interested in seeing us and our nice backgrounds
and our beautiful faces, you can't forget
our beautiful faces.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't have a background. You just see the back of my little office here, but it's really exciting. I mean, there's a lot to look at, so totally not bland at all. But
Andrew's is far and away the coolest background.
Yeah. I'm upstaging you guys here. I mean, you guys had to catch up, obviously. So
clearly,
glad we established that.
So anyway, moving along to the Blackhawks here. Their draft lottery is 1 week and 1 day earlier than the NBA's, coming up on May 8th. Honestly, probably not a ton to cover until then. The Rockford Ice Hogs, the Chicago Blackhawks AHL affiliate, did advance in their playoff series for the Calder Cup against the Wild, and will be starting a 5-game series against the Texas Stars on Friday.
Playoff hockey. Yeah.
Playoff hockey.
Yeah.
In the Midwest.
In Illinois.
It is technically in Illinois. That is correct. It's about an hour and a half away, and it's Rockford, but it's in Illinois.
It's Illinois. It's Rockford, Illinois.
All right. So with that being said, moving on to our 4 stars of the week. I guess I'll start and we can just rotate in a circle. Again, if you're listening and not watching, our screen's set up in kind of a circle-ish. Not really. We can move in a circle. Anyway.
Just go.
4 stars of the week. So, number 1, Cody Bellinger. Dude has absolutely been raking, like we mentioned earlier. He's up to 5 home runs on the year, hitting above 300, been playing super, super well. Thank you, Cody, for bringing it up. And Nick, you can move on to our number 2 star of the week.
So our number 2 star of the week is Nico Horner. Just his stats from this past week. I don't know if it counted today. I don't remember when I pulled the stat, but he's batting .441 with an 1149 OPS. He's hit 2 home runs, which is great to see because he's not really known as a power hitter. He's up with the league leaders in stolen bases. He gets on base. He's a terror on the base paths. He's everything you want in a leadoff man, and that's why he's our number 2 star of the week.
Absolutely crushing it right now. Andrew, would you like to present our number 3 star of the week?
Absolutely. But first of all, I'm Nico Horner. As the Moneyball saying goes, does he get on base?
Can he get on base?
Can he get on base?
Can he get on base?
That's right. He absolutely can. But speaking of somebody who has made it much more difficult for opposing hitters to get on base this year, Drew Smyly, 7 perfect innings on Friday, 10 strikeouts. Best outing for any starting pitcher for the Cubs so far this season. And it's unfortunate that probably the one thing we'll remember from that game is the whole fiasco for how the perfect game ended. But Drew Smyly before that point was dealing. And yeah, I mean, you got to shout that out. It was a really, really impressive outing for him. And hopefully that's something that can carry over to the remainder of the season.
And I want to add, I saw a stat, and I could be misremembering here. If I'm misremembering, it's a larger amount than a smaller amount of years, but I believe Drew Smyly is the first Cubs pitcher in roughly 30 years, again, if not more, to take a perfect game into the 7th. So huge props to him.
He has allowed 1 run or fewer in his last 8 starts at Wrigley Field.
That's
man loves pitching
filthy.
At Wrigley.
That is filthy.
He should if he's pitching like that.
Yeah. He's going to be pitching there a lot, so hopefully he loves it.
And to wrap up our 4 stars of the week, drum roll, please. Just kidding. Ted Phillips, thank you for leaving.
Hallelujah.
We didn't want you here.
Thanks for nothing for the past 24 years.
Which is about 2 years less than any of us have been alive. So, yay mediocrity for our entire lives.
That's just Bears football right there.
That is Bears football in a nutshell. All right, moving on to our little bit looser segment here, the Complete 180, where each of us gets 3 minutes to talk about anything we want. Does anybody want to start, or do you just want me to go since I'm first on the list?
Go for it.
Go for it.
All right, so my 3 minutes is going to be kind of a little bit about why I moved to Arizona. Nick had mentioned earlier in the show that he was at the Cubs game the other day, and he sent a picture of Wrigley Field to our Snapchat group chat, and I'm like, I hate you. And then he messages back, if it makes you feel any better, it was sleeting 20 minutes ago. And I was like, yeah, actually, yes, that makes me feel a lot better because it was 90 degrees in a dry heat, no humidity, so it feels like 80 to me. Nice and sunny, Weather's beautiful. I've been wearing shorts and t-shirts outside of work for like a full-on month now, and you had to sit in Wrigley while it was sleeting, freezing your ass off. I win.
I didn't have to. I got to.
It's a privilege.
It's a privilege.
I'm looking forward to coming back.
Also, you omitted one important detail. I was holding a beer bat.
Oh, yes, please present your beer bat.
I mean, it's going to look weird with the but yeah, here's the beer bat. It kind of looks weird with the background, but yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, the Cubs introduced a souvenir beer bat this year, which it seems like, yay, beer bat, but I think the real reason they did it is to curtail the cup stakes.
No, actually, no, because the beer vendors in the bleachers don't sell them. You have to go around to the actual concourse. Yeah.
Okay. I was just proven wrong very quickly. So
no, they just brought it in because it's going to make them a ton of money. I mean, that thing was way more expensive than.
Would you care to share how much your beer bat cost you, Nick?
It was like $34 after tax, but it's like two beers worth of beer. So it's not that bad.
Oh man. Yeah. But anyway, to wrap up my 180 here, the weather out here is great. I love it. I am going to come back and visit in the summer when it's also nice there. And I don't have to freeze while I'm sitting in the bleachers being an idiot. So part of the reason
is going to be hilarious when you move back.
TBD. TBD. All right. Who would like their 3 minutes now?
I guess I'll go for mine. So I know this is technically not supposed to be a time where we talk about sports here, but we're mainly a Chicago sports podcast. But I got to talk about some of the things going on in the NBA right now in regards to the playoffs going on and the MVP conversation, because that's been heavily debated upon on Twitter. NBA Twitter is like a cesspool, so I try not to get on that.
All of Twitter is a cesspool.
All of Twitter is a cesspool, but especially NBA Twitter is a cesspool. And the argument going back and forth this year has been who wins MVP, Nikola Jokic or Joel Embiid. Both have really deserving candidates this year because both of them were fantastic this year. But it looks like Joel Embiid's going to win it, but I disagree. I think Nikola Jokic, I thought he had, an MVP-worthy season once again. Arguably his best season as a pro, coming off of back-to-back MVPs. I think he has a statistical case, even though it is close. Like, he averaged damn near a triple-double, like ridiculous shooting efficiency, which is unheard of for a center. This guy's a center averaging like nearly 10 assists a game. Just ridiculous stuff. And the Nuggets were the best team in the Western Conference this year. They are really bad when he's out of the lineup. Like the on-off splits for him are crazy. Like the Nuggets are like 20 points better when Nikola Jokic is on the court compared to when he's on the bench. So basically, when he's on the court, the Nuggets are a championship level team. When he's off it, they're like a bottom 5 lottery team. Like, just he's like the foundation of that team. But honestly, like, Joel Embiid had a very deserving year as well. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out there because I'm a huge Nikola Jokic fan. They're playing actually their playoff game right now against the Minnesota Timberwolves, looking to get a sweep there. But yeah, huge Nikola Jokic fan. So this is just my time to just go all, I don't know what you want to call it. Let's just say really compliment Nikola Jokic for his game because I really like watching him play.
Nice. All right. And Nick, I'm going to be honest to those of you listening and or watching, reading what Nick had put in for what he wants to talk about, I'm a little nervous. But
you should always be a little nervous with this segment. All right. So I'm going to share this screen. This is a tweet from Anthony Bass. If you don't know who he is a relief pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. And he caused a bit of a stir on Twitter. He put up this tweet earlier. So it's his kids and, there's a whole bit of a popcorn mess. And he says, the flight attendant at United just made my 22-week pregnant wife traveling with a 5-year-old and 2-year-old get on her hands and knees to pick up the popcorn mess by my youngest daughter. Are you kidding me? I have some thoughts. First of all, Anthony, the United flight attendant did not make your wife get on her hands and knees and pick up after your kids. you, major wife, get on your hands and knees and pick up after your kids. I get it. Kids make messes. All right. They are, they get crazy with it. But like, be an adult and just pick up after your kid. Like, you're an able-bodied person. And I don't have the tweet up with me, but he actually started like arguing with some of the people's in replies. And basically he was saying, it's like, look, they pay a cleaning crew to do their job. The cleaning crew should do their job. And you know what? Okay, that's fine. Mr. Anthony Bass thinks that people who are being paid a certain amount of money should do their job properly. All right. Completely unrelated. I have Anthony Bass's baseball reference page up.
No, you don't. No.
In 7.1 innings pitched this year in 8 games, his ERA is, I had it here. His ERA is 7.36.
You did not.
He has a FIP of 4.86. His ERA plus is 62. It is just not good. So, Mr. Anthony Bass, I think if somebody's being paid a lot of money to do their job and keep runs from being scored, you should do your job, and you should do it a little bit better, and also pick up after your kids. Like, don't make your wife pick up. Like, my God. All right, I'm done. That's all I got.
The man pulled up the receipts.
I don't even have a response to that.
I don't either. The only thing I could think is maybe pull up how much he's actually getting paid this year if you're going to really hammer him at home. But...
Yeah.
Oh, don't tempt him. He's going to do it.
Oh, I know he's going to do it. I know him too well.
$725,000. So he's making like the vet minimum.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, that's more than I'm making.
Oh yeah, it's probably more
I'd love to be paid that amount of money to suck.
Oh my God. On that wonderful note, thank you, Nick, for your contribution to this fine program.
Always spicing it up.
Nick is really filling his role of old man yells at cloud. I'm going to wrap this week up. Thank you both for another wonderful evening spent discussing Chicago sports. As always, you can check out Andrew's work on the Bear Report at 247sports.com and hear him on the Picks for Polls podcast on Bear Report Radio. And feel free, to follow him at AJ Freeman 25 on Twitter. Thank you all so much for watching. I did forget to mention last week, if you're checking us out on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, share the video. The only way that this is going to get bigger is if we get all of you involved in our audience here and help us promote it a little bit. It's much appreciated. Once again, thank you all for watching and listening, and we'll be back here ranting and raving again next week.